Today is Yoga for Anxiety. This week is the last week in our exploration of the Yama and the Niyama from the Yoga Sutra. So we have been through all of them. Final one is surrender. So surrender is not last because it's least. Surrender for me, I think, is one of the hardest. So come on down to your mat and start to land on your back. Whatever comfortable position you're in, feet down, feet straight, legs straight, whatever is more comfortable. Start to land and start to surrender into the ground. So surrender into the support of the ground below you. Really releasing the tension from your muscles. So you don't have to hold yourself together all of the time. Sometimes you can let go and take a break. So surrender was conceptually a very huge and difficult concept for me, one that I had to work with for a very long time. Surrender to me throughout my years in trauma and then in trying to heal, surrender was often taught to me as the serenity prayer. Surrender to the things that you cannot change. Accept the things you cannot change. But then there was something else. There was more. It was adding. It was more. So the courage and the wisdom to know the difference, to change the things that you can change, and the courage and wisdom to know the difference. So there was always that extra working part for my brain. My brain was always like, well, how do I know? And like, I would go into these spiraling circles of, well, how do I know what I can change? When I came to understand the concept of surrender physically in my body. So as you're laying here, start to think about it. Start to think about physically surrendering the tension in your muscles. When I came to understand that, I had a much easier time processing that concept of letting go. Because I practiced physically letting go on my mat. I practiced. And it was hard. When I came to Shavasana, I was always doing something else. I wasn't really doing Shavasana at the end of any class. Especially because oftentimes there's a yoga teacher walking around the room, you're in a room with people. I didn't really grasp that part of the practice. Sometimes I would just pack up and get out before the Shavasana. So sometimes the hardest part of our practice is not the hardest pose, but the ones where we're required to be still and surrender and let go. So today throughout practice, I'm going to say the word surrender when we come to certain pose. I'm going to say the word, and when you get to that, let go. See how many physical muscles you can let go of. So as you're laying here, start to tense your body. Start to feel tension in your body. Maybe make fists, tighten your arms, tighten your legs, maybe tighten your stomach. Really think about really tightening your stomach. When you tighten your stomach, is it more difficult to breathe? When you tighten your shoulders, is it more difficult to breathe? When you squeeze your face, notice what a lot of tension feels like in your body. Start to feel it. And then bring all of your awareness to the fact that the ground is below you. The ground can support all of your muscles. Squeeze a little more tension and take a deep breath. And with the exhale, sigh out as if you're giving the ground permission to hold you. Let your body be held. Let your bones be held on the ground. Your muscles don't have to do any work. You are on the ground. You can let go. So start to build these little moments, these little building blocks for our foundation of letting go. And watch for the cognitive head. The cognitive head is always going to try and give us things that we want to let go of. Give us visuals. Give us, oh, I know exactly the thing that's bothering me and I want to get rid of that one. As we're working with our practice, try to make it a full human experience. Less of a cognitive brain experience, more of a visual, emotional, a feeling experience. Because the cognitive brain does enough work, especially for people with lots of anxious feelings. The cognitive brain does enough. Today, we are going to try and get into the other layers of ourselves. Start to wiggle your toes. Start to feel what your toes feel like. Start to give your legs a little squeeze and release, just waking up your body. So now we're going to move from surrender to action. So squeeze and release the legs. Squeeze and release the arms into fists and hands into fists and release. Squeeze and release. And then squeeze and release the torso. So think about the muscles of your stomach. Squeeze your muscles tight and release. Just experience. Have a really physical experience of what it feels like. Squeeze. And even bring your fingertips to your stomach so you know what it feels like to squeeze in tight and then release and be soft. Notice what happens to your breath when you squeeze. Squeeze the muscles of your face tight and release. So squeeze and release. And then bring your feet to the ground, knees up if they're not there already. Take a little side sway of the hips. Just make sure the low back is nice and soft. And we're going to move through our base. So start to fire up the backs of your legs. We're going to leave our shoulders and our rib cage on the ground. We're going to inhale, lift the hips, exhale, lower. Move with your breath. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Can you start to find even use of the muscles? So now start to think about using the backs of your legs, your glutes, and your stomach muscles evenly. So squeeze and pull up your hips. Try not to let the glutes do all of the work. Maybe even softening the glutes to feel all the other muscles working, and then just a little action in the glutes. See if you can get those bigger muscles to play the game evenly. Move with your breath. Notice if heat is coming to your face. Maybe watching where else you're squeezing in your body, where you're holding and resisting. Lower the hips to the ground and take your feet to the ceiling. Look at your feet. Take some slow ankle circles. Back in the opposite direction. And then pedal out your legs. One at a time, like you're riding a bicycle. Little squeeze of your hips down onto the ground, pushing your hips down onto the ground to keep you nice and stable and to make sure that your back isn't doing all the work here. And then, option, if you have a block, to place a block between your legs, lower legs. If not, just imagine you have the block. Use it. We're going to fire up our stomach muscles first. So press the hips down into the ground. Press the rib cage down into the ground. Maybe bring your hands to your stomach to remind yourself where you want to work. Don't let the low back do the work. Inhale as you lower the legs. Exhale as you bring it back up. Nice and slow. Move with your breath.
How about I surrender to my inner sloth?
Start to fire up stomach muscles, work them. Move with your breath. And then bring your legs to a point where you're active. So not all the way down, about halfway between up and down. You're active, you're strong. Take your legs a little bit to the right and then a little bit to the left. Little tiny movement. Your hips are not moving on the ground. Keep your hips stable. It's just a tiny movement with the legs. Breathe. Breathe. Work your deeper inner core muscles. And then release the block. Bring your knees in. And give yourself a little hug. Roll on over to a side and come on up to tabletop position, moving with our breath here. Inhale, tabletop, exhale towards a child's pose shape. moving and breathing. Starting to be really present on your mat.
Oh, thank you.
Moving with your breath, feeling yourself on your mat, and every time your mind pulls you away from the practice, feel something physical. Find your hands, find your legs, find your breath. Give yourself permission to be on your mat. Forward to tabletop and set up your base, lifting yourself up out of the ground with all of your stomach and chest muscles. So this is hanging out in the shoulders. This is strong and active, really active chest and shoulders. Right leg even with the hip. Really fire up the right leg as if you're pressing through the heel, lifting up out of the ground. Left arm lifts. Breathe and balance. We're going to bring the left arm over to the left and the right foot towards the right hand. So inhale, open, exhale back. Slow, controlled, steady movement, strong, active chest. Watch for buckling into that right shoulder. Move with your breath, strong leg. If this is too much for your hip, bend the knee and bring the knee towards the wrist. Bring the right leg even with the hip. Lower the left hand, bend the right knee. Press the heel up to the ceiling without moving anything else. Little pulses. Nice steady base. Lift up out of the ground. Press through the heel. Lower the toes. Press through the heel. Static or hold.
I was waiting for you to notice.
Static or little pulses. Static and hold are the same thing. It's Monday. Surrender to what is. I'm not English good. Lower the right knee. Take a little reset. Take a moment to really feel left and right sides. And then send the left leg out even with the hip, pressing through the heel. Really strong in the leg, lifting up with the chest muscles. Right arm lifts. Breathe and hold. Balance. And then inhale, open. Exhale, bring the arm and leg back in line with the shoulder and hip. Slow, controlled, steady movement, steady base. Lower right hand, bend left knee. Press the heel up to the ceiling without letting anything else move. So watch that left hip wiggling around and taking this into the glute. We want to keep the sacrum stable, the hips stable, and press through the heel. Lower the toes, press through the heel. Static or little pulses.
There you go.
Take the tension out of the neck, rest the head. Lower the left knee, take a moment to notice left and right sides. See if they're even now or if they still feel different. Tuck the toes, down dog. Warm up your down dog in whatever way feels right for you. And then find the stillness of down dog. So, can you find the concept of surrender in an active pose? So what can you let go of here? We're lifting up out of the ground with our arms and our shoulders. Our stomach muscles are pulling our hips up. What can you let go of? You can let go of the tension in your neck. Let your head drop as if you're trying to let all of your thoughts turn upside down. Get a different perspective. Let go, find your breath. Let go of the tension in your neck. Keeping everything else still, slight bend in the knees, take the right heel to the ceiling. Press the right heel up high. So hips are still where they were, not opening up that right hip. Hold, press through the heel, lengthen. And bend the knee, step through, low lunge. Find your blocks. Move with your breath. Inhale forward. Exhale towards straight with the right leg. Watch for gripping in the toes. Find a steady low lunge. So set up your base really strong. Both legs strong and active. Lift up off this right thigh. Press the right hip down towards the ground. Pull up from the right heel. So very, very strong right leg. We're going to lift the left hip open and closed. So we're going to pull it open and pull it closed. Trying to keep both legs strong and active. Small, tiny movement. Breathe. And then come forward on the right leg, pop up the left toes, little tiny bit. So bent knee on the right leg, little tiny bit of lift on the left toes. Hold on to your blocks for balance. And we're going to take the left leg past the right. We're going to inhale here, exhale as we bring the left leg over to the left. Inhale back. So watch for this movement, swinging the hips around too much. You're trying to keep this right leg nice and strong, hips stable, left leg active. Don't just swing it around in space. Right glute should start to burn pretty quickly. Maybe even keeping a hand on your hips to watch for any movement coming through the sacrum. And then take the left leg past the right, come to curtsy pose. So all the way up, inhale as you rise. Once you find curtsy, take a check-in on your hips. See if they're even. So oftentimes we're doing left, right sides with our hips. Try and get your hips even. Hold here. We're gonna peel right heel up and down, trying to move just from the calf muscle on the right leg.
What's going on with me? I cannot find curtsy. My brain's just not doing it. I don't know where it went. I've lost curtsy.
Nice and slow with control. Keep an eye on your hips.
My leg hurts though.
Huh?
My
Your butt?
butt, yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to burn out the right glute in case you haven't noticed already. Kaylee already says she's found it. Bring it back to curtsy. Knees are going to come out and in. It's a teeny movement. You're not going to be able to move your knees very much, but move from the inner thighs. So don't yank around the knees, but move from the inner thighs out and in. Teeny movement.
Yeah, okay.
Find those stabilizer muscles.
Cool. They're there. Let's move on.
There, let's move on. Okay, hold curtsy, lower left heel towards the ground and back without moving anything else. So nice, slow, controlled movement. Really fire up and keep stable with that right glute. Should be burning. Breathe. Land in a regular curtsy. Start to bring the weight onto the right leg.
I think I can.
Pop up on the left toes. And we're going to lower little half squats. You can keep the toes down if you need to. Little half squats. Don't make me laugh. It's hard to balance. With the right leg. Really burning out that right glute. Come on, you can do it.
I'm shaking.
Mindfully step forward. Mountain pose. And tap out that right heel. So take the right heel, tap it to the ground, try and get the wiggles to go all the way up into the glute. And you can take the back of your fist, whack the glute.
I knew I shouldn't come there. I should stay in bed.
Connect your breath. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, purr to heart.
Should stay in bed today.
Third time, purr to heart. Hold here, surrender. So find your breath. What can you let go of? Can you soften your toes a little more? Soften the knees and ankles. Can you stand in a mountain pose without being muscularly forced? So think about all the times you've stood in a mountain pose where you're really restricting and gripping, your legs are tight, your glutes are tight. Maybe some people even have the habit of pushing hips forward or back. It's one of those tension things to notice. What can you let go of? What can you surrender in your mountain pose? Maybe you need to take a little wiggle of the hips, see if your low back is soft. Maybe you need to pick up your shoulders and drop them a couple of times, see if your shoulders are soft. Surrender. What can you let go of? Breathe. And then inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive it down. Step back straight to down dog. Find your breath. Turn your world upside down. Find a firm, stable base. So strong arms, shoulders, chest, hips stay where they are, knees a little bent. Send the left leg up to the ceiling. Slow. Press through the heel. Lengthen. Not opening the hips. Breathe. Press a little more. Get longer. So if you're trying to pull more space in your spine by pressing through the heel. Getting longer, longer, longer. And then step through low lunge. Move with your breath. Inhale forward. Exhale towards straight. Every time your mind pulls you off the mat, return to a physical sensation. And then find a steady low lunge. Set up your base really well first. So you're super strong, not gripping in the left toes, pulling up from the left heel, and then a little push down as if you're trying to push the left hip bone down, back down into the ground. Long through the right leg. Nice and strong. We're going to peel the right hip a teeny bit open and then a teeny bit back. Moving from the front of the hips, not from the sacrum. Move with your breath. Small, controlled movement. Come forward on the left leg. Pop up the right toes. So a little tiny pop up the right toes. We're going to bring the right leg past the left. Inhale here, exhale, open. So you want to keep lots of action pressing through this left leg, keeping the hips stable. Inhale, exhale, open. So maybe even placing your hand here. If you have a tension to take everything into the sacrum, place your hand on your hips, keep your hips steady. Keep your leg active and strong. Move with your breath.
I'm going to be uneven now.
Really fire up that left glute. Start to really get strong. Find the burn. Take the right leg past the left. Land on the ball of the foot. Curtsy pose. Inhale as you rise up.
I didn't do this side right. It didn't hurt.
Huh?
I didn't do this side right. It doesn't hurt.
So find your curtsy. Find steady hips. So strong in your hips. Strong in your base. We're going to peel up, left heel, and lower. So really pulling from the cuff. Try to keep everything strong and active. So we're going to be mindful when we're working in unusual angles. We're not trying to yank the knee into some strange and painful direction. We're trying to work with the muscles. Lower the left heel, find steady curtsy. And then we're going to pull the knees apart and then in. So it's a teeny movement moving from the inner thighs. Move with your breath. Find curtsy. Lower the right heel and back. Steady breath. Stabilize with this left glute. And then bring the weight forward onto the left leg. Pop up the right toes. Little tiny half squats. And you can leave the toes down if this is too much. Challenging your balance here. Fire up that left glute. Burn it out. Step forward, mountain pose. Connect your breath. Inhale up. Exhale, heart to heart. And on the third time, surrender. Can you soften the glutes a little more? Low back, toes. Soften the knees. Maybe you're pulling the knees too far back. Soften. Soften the shoulders. Soften the breath. Soften the face. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive it down. This time, hang out. Forward fold. And surrender. So what can you let go of in this pose? Maybe your torso can find your thighs with a deeper bend in your knees. And your head can really let the tension go. Maybe your hands can flip palm up. Soften the shoulders. What can you let go of? Ungrip the toes. And then hands to the ground, step back, down dog. Breathe. Inhale, lift right leg. Exhale, step through, lower the left leg. Rise up as you inhale, warrior two legs. So find your base. Find a steady warrior two. Take the time to find your steady base. So maybe you need to pull the left thigh a little more to open up. Maybe you need to pull the knee on the right leg, so pull this right thigh open, or maybe in further. Find your base that feels super strong and steady. Ungrip the toes. We're going to take the hands and make fists. So reach out, this time strong warrior. Make your warrior as strong as you can, as if you're really pressing through your arms, a strong pose. Find your breath, both legs active, toes not gripping. Making this a very visual action, take all of your worries and tensions into your fists. Imagine that everything you held, everything that bothers you, everything that rolls around in your head is in your hands right now. Take a deep breath in and squeeze the hands really tight, and with the exhale, surrender, open the hands, let it go. Imagine feeling everything falling from your hands getting softer and lighter. Invitation to close your eyes and let your hands be all you can experience and feel right now. And then bring your hands to your hips. We're going to slowly straighten up the right leg. So pull your leg towards straight. Get longer in the torso. Reach the right arm forward. We're going to float our triangle. Hold steady. Find those stomach muscles to stabilize you. And then we're going to move and breathe. So inhale as you reverse your triangle. Exhale as you come on over, trying not to move the legs. So bring your hand in between your rib cage and your hip to help remind you which muscles you should be moving from. Strong legs. Reach. Come back to warrior two. Pivot on the back foot, frame out the front. Right foot meets left, down dog. Let go. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, step through. Lower the back foot. Inhale, rise up. Warrior two on the other side. So find your steady base. Really strong in both legs. Take your time to set up your base. Watch for gripping in the toes. Strong, strong, strong legs. So really pulling yourself up out of the ground. We're not sinking into hips. We're pulling ourselves up. Strong legs. Stable, 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 strong base. Take your arms out. Make fists. Make a warrior strong. As strong as you can find. Invitation to close your eyes. So bring all the tension you can possibly think about into your body. Maybe even make a tense face. Find yourself as strong as can be. And again, bring all of your worries into your hands. Grip them tight. And then take a deep breath in, really gripping. And with the exhale, suddenly let them drop to the ground, open the hands. Experience the idea of everything falling from your soft hands. Hands to hips, slowly straighten up the left leg. Long in the torso, float your triangle, left arm over. Find your stomach muscles to help stabilize your torso. So oftentimes when triangle people pull this left hip in and take it into the sacrum. Strong open legs, really strong. Nothing should be pulling in the sacrum. Long in the torso first, then come over. Inhale, reverse triangle. And exhale back. And if you are like me and you like to take everything into the sacrum and move too much to the sacrum, you can bring your right hand onto your sacrum and remind it to be soft around this space. So all the strength is coming from your legs, not from your glutes. Glutes should be pretty soft. You can also bring your hand here to help remind you to use these stabilizer muscles in your stomach. Return to warrior two. Pivot on the back foot, frame out the front. Left foot meets right down dog. Surrender. Surrender in an active pose. What can you let go of? Slowly lower the knees and make your way all the way down to crocodile pose. So stomach down, one hand on top of the other, forehead down. Shimmy the hips. This time, what can you let go of? Surrender. So surrender, this pose, this in child's pose, are a pose of surrender. You have to be quite strong to show your vulnerable back, to expose your back like this. Trust in yourself. What can you let go of across the shoulders? Though your back is open, can you connect to a slight hug, a slight compression across the front of the chest? And as you breathe in nice and slow and deep, can you imagine that your breath is massaging the front of your body? There are a bunch of nerves across the front of our body. So imagine we can connect to these nerves that regulate us. So our nerves that run across the front of the torso are nerves of regulation. So imagine connecting to a soft massage with your breath to the front of your body while the ground is supporting you. Can you make your back a little softer? Everybody's holding patterns in their back are different. So know where yours is. Maybe your low back, maybe one side or other of the glutes. So you pull into the SI joint. Maybe across the back of your shoulders. Maybe you pinch in between the shoulder blades. Know where your pinch point, your stress point commonly is. And bring all your awareness there and see if you can make it softer. So sometimes it helps to go to the opposite side. So if my pinch point is in between my shoulder blades, I'm going to feel my chest on the ground and remind myself that the ground has got me right now and I can let go of all that tightness between my shoulders. And then we're going to work with the opposite. We're going to start to fire up all of the muscles of the backs. So begin by pressing the tops of the feet down into the ground. Start to fire up the legs. Start to fire up the glutes. Think about getting longer in the spine. So imagine you could grow space from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Begin to lift the head just a little. Begin to lift the shoulders. So now we're going to think about moving from our shoulders. Your hands can be down for balance wherever is comfortable. We're going to inhale, lift the shoulders, getting longer in the spine. Exhale, lower. Trying to keep our head right in this neutral line. We're not yanking our skull backwards. We're trying to keep our head in a neutral line, not bring all the tension into our neck, and especially not bring all the tension into our lower back. We want to find even use of all the muscles of our back. Fire them up. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Find that place where you can lift and hold. Bring strength into your back. So comfortable hold means you can hold a steady breath. Strong lift, maybe even lifting the tops of the feet, maybe even lifting the hands. Hold, find strength. Bring as much tension as you can into your back. Really strong in your back. Breathe and hold. Hold steady. And then bring it back down to crocodile pose. Shimmy the hips. This time, what can you let go of? Where can you find tension that you can soften a little more? Surrender. Bring your heels up towards the ceiling and take a little side sway of the heels, nice and soft and slow. Just trying to get a little softer in the lower back. And then bring the feet back down and roll on over to your back. So take your time to come to your back. Land on your back, bring your soles of your feet down, knees up, and take a little side sway of your knees, really checking in, lower back, hips, trying to get nice and soft. And then we're going to take our feet to the ceiling, kind of ending where we started. Look at your feet, notice what is different. So move your feet, feel your legs, what feels different? And bring your knees in towards the chest, give yourself a little hug. And surrender here. So what can you make more soft in this pose? It's kind of closed and comforting. Can you soften the face? Can you soften around the shoulders a little more? Can you soften the feet? And then slowly unwind. You're going to take right knee over left and bring the knees in towards the chest. So you're looking to just find space in right glute piriformis space. Find it and breathe into it. Don't yank into it. Find where it feels like you found it, and then send all of your breath there. Breathe. Slowly unravel, other side, left over right. Find the glute piriformis space on the left side. Breathe. Slowly unwind. Take the legs along with a soft bend in the knees. Point the toes down towards the ground. Start to fire up the front of the body. Take the arms up overhead. And reach as long as you can. Maybe pulling a little bit longer. Lengthening, lengthening, lengthening. And then take the arms and shoulders over to the right. Legs over to the right. And take a length in the left side rib cage. Breathe. Giant banana shape on the ground. Take the tension out of your neck. Really mindfully feel your neck. Breathe. Slowly lengthen through center, and then take the arms and feet over to the left side. Lengthen right side body. Breathe. And then bring the torso back to neutral, feet back to neutral. And we're going to do a somatic exercise, which is an exercise in helping us let go. So, we want to imagine every muscle in our body is as soft as possible so that we can move like a bowl, like a jelly in a bowl being shaped. English. Move like jelly in a bowl. Anybody ever wobbles and shakes? That's what we're looking for our muscles. Nice, soft wiggling. So you might want to bring a little bit more of a bend in your knees, just so that you're not pressing down into the back of your knees. You're going to flick your toes. So you're going to flick your toes back and forth. Allow your hands to be soft, shoulders to be soft. Really try to get the wobbles moving throughout your body, and notice where they're not moving. So you want everything to be wobbling and soft, and then notice where they're not. So maybe you have places in your torso. See if you can bring a little more softness there. Maybe across the shoulders they're not wiggling. Maybe one shoulder's wiggling more than the other, one hip more than the other. Notice. You want to try and get as soft as possible. Those little somatic shakes are like a little nervous reset for the muscles. Soften, move with it, let it go. And as you're flicking your feet, notice if you're bringing tension in your feet. Even trying to keep your feet soft even though we're using them. Flick, 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 nice and soft. And then take a deep breath in, and with the exhale, sigh out and land wherever you land. Notice knees, hips, hands, feet. Notice if one side is pulling all the way open and the other side's pulling in, or maybe both sides pulling in or out. Notice where you landed in space. It can help just bring your awareness to some of the tension and holding patterns in your body. So really check in, really feel your whole body from the toes to the crown of the head to the tips of the fingers. What is present? Notice and experience. So option to stay exactly where you are for your resting pose, or checking in and noticing how you feel. Maybe this is not where you want to be. So, here's that word again, surrender. Surrender into the support of the ground. So, this pose at the end of the class is kind of where so much of the magic of yoga happens. So we worked through the physical body, we got in touch with the physical body, maybe moved some tension around, maybe released some tension, maybe strengthened some weak spots. All of these physical things that we did. So it's all kind of geared at balancing the physical layer. But that's not all who we are. As a human, we have the physical layer, we have the energetic layer, we have the mental layer, we have the emotional layer, we have our spiritual layer, we even have the layers we place on ourselves within our life. So our ego, our place in our family, our job that we do, there's all these other layers that we place on ourselves. The physical practice is kind of geared at balancing the physical and the energetic layer. And then this part is about kind of bringing everything else all into sync. And one of the ways to connect to that concept is to let go. Let go of cognitively understanding the process. Who cares if we can scientifically describe what happens inside? If it makes your body, your mind, your soul feel better, then that's all that matters. The cognitive mind's job is to sort and compartmentalize and try and describe our world, but it's also not the only part of us. So really, really, really feel the ground below you. Give your body permission to let go. Take a break. And it can be very helpful to say to yourself, right here in this moment, all of my needs are met. I can let go. I can soften. I can take a break. And as you surrender into the ground and let go, notice when the mind pulls you back off the mat, and just gently bring yourself back to the physical body. Notice any places that have become tense, soften, and begin again, over and over again. Every fresh breath, every moment is a moment to start over. With patience, with kindness, without judgment, without frustration. It's all just a practice. The practice of letting go. It's not the goal. It's not some gymnastics event where we're all getting a score. Just start over. I'm going to read, and if you are in a wonderful place and you feel like tuning me out, go ahead. I was brought up in church, and for me, the ritual of the Lord's Prayer is very meditative for me. So I found the Aramaic Lord's Prayer, which to me has a kinder translation. So when my cognitive mind is trying to process and translate, this one just resonates more warmly, more kindly to me, because I have that perfectionist, judgmental part of myself that wants to get everything perfect. So this one just makes it feel a little stronger for me. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, creator of all, focus your light within us. Make it useful. Create your reign of unity now through our hearts and our hands. Your one desire then acts with ours, as in all light, so in all forms. With gratitude, we receive what we need each day in bread and insight for the expanding life. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us as we release the cords with which we bind others. Let us remember you always and notice our forgetfulness. From you comes all ruling will, the power and life to do, the song that beautifies and renews all. May this be the source from which all my actions flow. So my favorite part of this is the loose the cords of mistakes. So loose the cords of mistakes that bind us. So these judgments that we place upon our mistakes, I often like to visualize them as cords tightening around me, holding me tight, gripping onto me. These judgments that I place on my mistakes. And the constant rumination of my cognitive mind over and over the mistakes that I've made, wishing that I could have done it right. And I see them as cords, and I visually imagine untying the cords. Slowly, not chopping them. Because I know it's a process. And I know that it won't happen instantaneously. But one by one, I imagine loosening the cords, letting them ungrip. And then I imagine loosening the cords that bind me to the deeds of others. For me, forgiveness was a very large term that I struggled with. So instead of thinking of the deed, the wrong that was done, instead of cognitively imagining that person that did that deed and wrapping them in forgiveness and love and saying, everything's rosy, you can do whatever you want to me, I found it more powerful to think about the cords that attach us. So when something happens between two people, there is an energetic exchange. So and maybe it's a loving exchange, maybe it's not. So when you have these exchanges, you have these cords that bind you to that experience with that person. And I imagine them being as big, heavy chains that attached me to traumatic experiences. And I imagine slowly letting the chains go. And it's not that the event no longer happened. It's not that I think that what they did was right and okay. It's that I loose the grip. I no longer want to carry those chains with me. I no longer want that to be part of my day-to-day experience. That heaviness, that burden that we carry as a result of traumatic or just unpleasant events in our lives. We don't push them away. We don't bury them. So we know by experience that hardly ever works out well. We just imagine loosening the cords, untying them, undoing them, letting them go. Whatever visual helps you to imagine dropping the responsibility of carrying that with you. And this too is surrender, letting go. And some may find it easier to drop the cords that bind you to others. Some may find it easier to drop the cords binding themselves. But wherever you begin, just imagine softening and letting them go. We know by experience that it's not helpful to constantly go over these events. We know that it's not helpful to run through those familiar patterns in our mind straight to the traumatic event. So imagine that that event just exists and you're no longer tied to it. You're letting go of that burden. And if you need to finish up at the 60-minute mark, you're going to start to bring gentle movements to the fingers and the toes. Starting to wake up the physical body. Make your way over to your side if you're not already there in a fetal position. Curl up in a ball and imagine being a little bit lighter. Try not to think of particular experiences. Try not to think of particular events or people or anything. Just imagine having maybe one less chain. Just a little bit less visual weight on your body. A little bit less tension in the muscles, a little bit less tension in the mind, a little bit less tension and gripping around the heart center and soul. And when you come on up to a seated position with your hands at prayer at heart space, imagine your shoulders, your head, your whole torso a little bit lighter, a little bit longer, a little bit softer. Connect to your inner wisdom. Honor your inner wisdom, your spiritual self. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. Thank you for joining us.